What up, world, and welcome to another episode of Beer Talk Now. I'm your host, D. Neal, and I'm in my hometown of Oakland, California, at Tiger's Taproom with founder, Mr. Brian himself. Brian, how you doing today?
I'm good today, Carol. How are you?
I can't complain. I got to say thank you first and foremost for holding down Coastal Brewing Company and carrying their Infinite Stout season. Love that. And a bunch of other local breweries are brewers in the making. So this is great. And as you can see here, yes, I got video this time. We have wonderful 2 flights for me. Can't wait to try all these out. But Brian, Oakland, California, what made you want to pick having a tap room in Oakland, California?
I've always loved Oakland. I've been here about 18 years now, and I come from New York City.
Nice. So, what part of New York?
Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, but my stomping grounds are the East Village.
Gotcha.
But the thing about Oakland is the diversity. You know, you walk around the street and it's every color, every genre. You know, it reminds me a lot of New York. You don't see that in a lot of other places. I've lived in Dallas, I've lived in Seattle, I've lived in Hawaii, and yeah.
So Oakland became your home. All right. So what was your experience with beer that said to you, Brian, it's time for you to open a tap room?
It was a gradual process, I have to say. I started home brewing with my old roommate Ben.
Shout out Ben.
He's actually now the head brewer at 21A.
Oh boy, shout out Ben. What up, Mr. Sean O'Sullivan, who I got yet to interview yet. I got to make up for my last time. Go ahead.
Yeah, we were roommates like 13 years ago. We started home brewing, and we both just always had a passion for beer. You know, I've worked in other industries, but always loved beer. Started going to events all the time, and then making friends. I actually started photographing for the industry, so these are actually shots that I took in all local places.
Wow. Then
this bar in Alameda wanted me to do a beer week event for them because they just didn't have the bandwidth or knowledge of beer to do an event. So I did 3 events there 3 years in a row. It's called the East Bay Non-IPA event. So it's all East Bay breweries, all non-IPAs brewed just for beer week.
No IPAs, huh?
Yeah. So that took off, and then I was working my last job, which was just a startup company. It was pretty stressful. I managed the finance of the company, and I knew about. It was in my brain to do this, just to the next level. And then I actually knew the guy who owned the coffee shop that used to be in here, and he was closing up, and I jumped on. That's pretty much what happened. It was just step after step, gradual progress.
And you're like, I'm taking this opportunity. I'm just gonna do this. Now, with beer in particular, because you've been in Oakland for 18 years, like what was the transition to what Oakland is now to craft beer while you were here? Because I didn't get really involved into beer on this level where I even wanted to do a show until 2017, 2018. And lo and behold, a lot of the brewers I talked to, they didn't get their first building, like their leases, until 2017. So what did you see in that time frame that you were here? And then when we answer that, I got another wonderful question I'd like to ask you.
I mean, there definitely wasn't as much available. And at the time, I wasn't really too familiar with the local breweries. I was drinking more international. I was really into Belgians at the time. Right? My friend worked at Whole Foods, so they had a great beer selection, so I always got to try those. But there wasn't definitely that many. I mean, there was a Linden Street, which turned into Old Can, and they kind of split up and then moved over there. I don't really remember what else was around here at the time.
Yeah, because now it's Oakland United. So,
yeah.
It was not, I mean, Temescal, I don't even know how, Temescal's fairly recent. It's not even, it hasn't been, it hasn't been on Telegraph, excuse me, for that long period of time. So, yeah, that makes sense. A lot of people do drink a lot of international beers because the beer scene wasn't really there. Now, New York, was there a beer scene in that aspect? Did people bring?
I was underage then. I was drinking 40s at a
40s, that's all right, man. Shout out to the Coke 45s and the Mickeys. You know, thank you. Not craft beer. Thank you to the large beer companies who couldn't sell those.
$1.99 40s.
Yeah, who couldn't sell the 40 ounces to the white men and women who moved out after gentrification. So in that early time. No, that sounded. I mean, not sounded about right, but that's something that I definitely hear a lot. Is that there really wasn't a scene. So what beer? I mean, not even going to say what beer. Belgium was the one for you. What other beers or what experience did you have that put you in a space where you're like, man, these are people that I want beer? Because I know you homebrew, but like, what was that event that really made you say, yeah, I can do this for a career?
So I started to meet a lot of people in the industry, made a lot of friends, used to go to events, used to get like VIP access to stuff like that. And to be honest, like I felt like I wasn't being judged. I mean, I'm gay, but I don't go to the gay scene because I'm constantly being judged. I don't like that. I find, it's not my scene, but I felt very inclusive in the beer scene. No one judged me. It was just, let's drink beer and have fun.
That's what we want to do. That's what we want to push. Now, being that way, since we talked about El Coastal as well too, like black brewers black brewers, LGBTQIA plus women, all of them are really putting putting their foot down as far as like, I'm going to be not just to be seen, but I'm going to be seen because I make good beer and I want to be respected in that way. How do you incorporate that into this tap room? Because you do carry a lot of different breweries.
Yeah, actually, it's in my ex-business partner. He left last March. He was Latino, and so when we were opening this, I was like, Manny, we're not two white guys with a beard opening up a craft beer bar, and in our mission statement, there's literally a quote that we want to create a safe place for all genres of people to drink beer and get to know beer, and so, I mean, that's our part of it, and yeah.
And how does that feel though, like when you have that conversation? Because a lot of people say that, the stereotype of like a white guy with the flannel and the fedora with the beard and everything. Like, why is it so significant? I mean, in our mindset, because I think every person that I meet of color or just different ethnicity, like they're just like, yeah, I don't want to be considered that white brewery. Like, and even brewers that I know who they're black-owned breweries, but you look in their space and they say something about it, but they're also saying, well, I still want it to be open to everybody. But like, why do you think that just kind of permeates in that thought process?
I think it's human nature to classify. I think it sucks, but we do it. Everyone does it.
That's the truth. That is definitely true. But let's get started on one of these beers. I know what are you drinking right now, and then we're going to talk about what I have.
You've got that here. Like, I'm drinking Apical Dominance from Russian River.
Okay, let me start off with the Czech one because that one's lighter. This is 4%. Now, when it comes to the shout out to the Czech, okay, right there. Cheers on that, by the way. Look at me. I gotta get used to the camera on me now that I'm doing this. How do you get people from Oakland to come to this tap room? Like, how do you promote and market yourself? Because I think that's one of like a standalone tap room is. I want to talk about that too, like the business side of that, but just getting people to come here versus going to their local brewery or their hole in the wall. Like, how are you marketing yourself to help introduce people to the craft beer?
That's like a constant $1 million question. I feel like you're constantly having to stay relevant. This market is so saturated here. I try to curate an exquisite lineup of craft beer. I'm not IPA heavy. I usually have like 3 IPAs, 4 max. And I really take the time on Mondays to look at everyone's sales sheets and see what's out there, and then kind of curate the menu for that. And I try to have a diverse lineup of styles on there. So that's one thing I do. And then before COVID, we used to throw events with breweries, stuff like that, or themed events. We used to do that a lot. I haven't done too many since we opened back up. I'm planning to kick off Beer Week with a bang. I'm sure we all are, because we finally have Beer Week next year.
So I'm talking about 2022.
Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Finally.
Cheers to 2022. Oh, that smells good.
Yeah, and so especially with our retail section, I also try to keep a diverse lineup. And I pay attention to what my customers drink and what they like. And I talk to everyone. Like, everybody comes to me for an opinion or what beers to pick up. So I try to educate people, even like when the draft beers. A lot of people, they order the beers by, it's number 6.
Gotcha.
But I hate that. We're not fast food, right? So I always repeat the name of the beer to educate the customer. And I want them to know there's a place they can come to where they're going to learn.
That is key, because I definitely can see people being like, I don't know how to pronounce that, or I don't know what that is, so I'll just try that one. Because when you're talking to to the client base, or really trying to get data on what it is that they like, are you using technology with that? Is that more of the people skills that you're doing right now, where you're sitting down and talking to them and repeating what they order? How are you tracking that so that you don't buy something that or a beer that literally sits there and expires?
It's pretty much in my head.
Okay.
I have spreadsheets, and I use Square for my POS, and so I actually track the number of pours. Pretty much, I look at that number every day. Wow. Okay, Pliny the Elder, I did 40 pours today, right? And then this other beer did 2. So I do look at those numbers.
And then you take that. Do you take that over a weekly basis, a daily basis? How do you what do you use that data for? Do you use it to say, hey, I'm not going to necessarily get this 5-gallon or 10-gallon or half a keg this month? I'm going to switch to something else. Like, how do you use that data?
Yeah, I've definitely learned. There's certain styles that I'm not going to carry half barrel, like the barley wine. That's going to be a slow mover.
Oh, I can't wait for that Diablo.
It's a good beer, but it's going to be a slow mover. So, and it also depends on the time of the year.
Yes.
So different beers sell more different parts of the year.
So we're here in November right now, leading into December.
It's 70 degrees out.
Yeah, the stout season for me every season. So is this stout, is the twisted stout, is that doing well for you, or you just tapped it?
Yeah.
So will you promote the stouts and the Diablo a little bit more because it's warmer when you drink it, or at least that sensation you get because of the alcohol content, or do you kind of just stick to pushing what people enjoy the most of the time?
It's kind of funny in this neighborhood, for some reason, even in the summer, like I have to have a stout on or something heavy. Like I don't know why. Like it's the only place I've ever experienced that.
High ABV life, I love it.
I have a lot of customers that always want like an imperial stout or barley wine.
Nice.
So in the thick of the summer, I've got one of those on.
My type of people, man. Now we're talking. I'm one of those too, Brian. I'm just letting you know. So when I pop up, hey, where's the 12.5? I need it.
But it's hard to find in the summertime
too. Now, the events and everything like that. And so what for Beer Week? Because we're talking about 2022. So let's say, I'll play devil's advocate. Okay, let's say December is getting really, it's cold. People start getting sick. They don't know if it's the flu. They don't know if it's cold. And then they say, you know what? We're gonna taper back on Beer Week. What do you have in plan for like that February if that doesn't pan out? Because I think a lot of people are so excited for something, but it's like, what's the worst case scenario? And have you thought about it?
I haven't thought about that, to be honest. But if you just have to pull back again, then that's what we do. But
and when it comes to staffing right now, you have how many people are you?
I have 2 part-timers.
2 part-timers. So right now this is the full time. I'm doing this every day.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
During the pandemic, it was pretty much here. Me here 6 days a week.
6 days a week. So with the part timers, they're 30 hours, 25. Like how are we doing the hours right now?
16.
16 as a part. Man, I must be nice as a part timer. 16 hours. Shout out to all the part timers and people holding us down.
It's also the slow season now.
Yeah,
like in this neighborhood, no one's from this neighborhood.
Mm.
These are all pretty much transplant millennials that live in this neighborhood. So come Thanksgiving, they're gone. It's a ghost town down here until pretty much end of January.
How does being in Oakland 18 years, how does that make you feel? Because growing up in Oakland, I've had several conversations with people who live in there, like people who go in real estate, and shout out, I own real estate too, and businesses and everything. Hey, bring all the transients in here. They stay 6 months, 8 months, 9 months out of the year. But how does that feel to you when it's just like dead?
Before I opened this taproom, I used to love it because there was no traffic. Like there's no one's busy. So I used to go to Beer Revolution and spend every Thanksgiving and Christmas because they were open and it was pretty chill. But now as a business owner, that's a different story.
Everyday dollars and cents. Now, what profit and loss for you? What's something that makes you say like cringes when it comes to that profit and loss statement? Because with tap rooms, I don't know the business of the tap room. So obviously, of course, it's not in a can. It's probably selling a lot better. I know certain markups for the can because again, you're bringing in such a small volume of, say, a brewery who may not be known, may be known, but they don't have a lot of that. So how do you balance like when you see something that's not going in the right direction, profit wise,
Sure.
or revenue wise? I need
Yeah. So I study my piano. I have a finance background.
Yes,
So
that's what I'm trying to pull it out of you, Brian.
Yeah.
I want to talk the business of a tap room.
So I study my P&L pretty much daily, weekly, monthly, annually. I compare months, but what I try to do is keep my cost of goods down to a certain percentage of my gross revenue. Otherwise, like sometimes I'll just stop ordering at the end of the month, especially in the slower months when I know it's going to be pretty slow for the next month or two. Like I'm going to lower my inventory for December and January. I'm going to go down to probably 12 taps, probably not as many packaged beers.
And you're gonna have the Stout and the Diablo still on there.
Sure.
All right, I'm talking about Brian. Don't let me down. Don't let me down. No, I understand. No, that makes sense. Like so, with that, like, what do you think for for a brewery, for example, because you look at what they have, and you call it, I don't know if you call it a sell sheet or their sell sheet. Like, what conversations do you have with breweries about their sell sheet when you're looking at what they have to offer? I mean, do you influence like, hey guys, hey you all, this is really moving well in this area, so make more of this if you can, or like how's that, or is it just like this is my sales sheet and order what you think you want and I'm gone?
Some of my reps I've become super tight with, and we have that discussion a lot. Like it's interesting to see, like we don't sell that much hazies anymore. We're back to West Coast IPAs, which I think is great. I will fly through a half barrel of a West Coast IPA in like a couple of days, where it takes me like a week to get through a hazy. And same with the cans, like it's probably double the amount of West Coast that I sell versus hazy.
So you're not a fan of hazies? Is that what
I'm
you're
over
saying? What about I see you have 1 or 2 sours up there. What about seltzers? Are you going to carry a seltzer, or have you carried seltzer?
We do carry seltzers in cans.
Okay.
Now what's interesting is last year, 2020, we sold a lot of hard seltzers. This year, it's all about hard kombuchas. So that was an interesting trend to see. I even had I designated a handle for hard kombucha.
Wow.
Instead of pouring from a can during the summer when it's hot.
How do you deal with that, with trends? Because it seems with beer, craft beer almost to a point, 2020, they almost were like the beer industry as a whole. They were like, no, we don't do that. We just do this. Like, how do you balance that trend to where you're done every year or every new trend? I gotta make sure to have it because people are asking about it, especially when the people who live here now come back from the holidays or they're doing work from home or something like that. How do you balance not just becoming that revolving door of like, this is how I feel this year, so I'm gonna sell it, even though your business has got to make revenue?
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. During the pandemic, when all the breweries shifted to cans, because we were just all doing takeout, it was just IPAs, because that's what sells. That's what was paying the rent. It was like, I need another style aside from an IPA. It was hard to find. I found that fascinating, but yeah.
What about, so yeah, because IPAs, and they don't last. I'm thinking like stouts, barley wines last a long time. Your lagers and your pilsners, I'm surprised they started to do that as well, but IPAs definitely were reigning supreme. I'm surprised hazies were doing the same thing in 2020 with cans?
Yep.
Good old
And we actually sell a ton of pilsners and lagers too, probably equal amounts as IPAs.
Nice. So what if you just had, between your pilsners and your lagers and your IPAs, if you just had pilsners and lagers, would you be able to just keep the doors open? No. Okay. I just asked that question because most people, like the highest selling volume of a beer is a lager or pilsner. I know we do IPAs over here on the West Coast, but those things sell. So I always wanted to ask that question, like, you just sold pilsners and lagers. Like, you know what? We have 5 beers. 2 of them are, one's a pilsner, one's a lager, and then we got maybe an IPA or something. Would that help more?
Well, I've had, I think 2 people in the 3 years we've been open actually get mad at me and walk out saying that I didn't have enough IPAs on draft. I was like, whatever.
No, like they just want all IPAs. So what? Okay, so what event? Do you have any events coming up for like December before?
Not really. We're going to do New Year's Eve. For sure.
Okay. What do you got planned on that, or can you not tell us?
It's still in the works. I've got a DJ. I'm turning this place into a club, renting a bunch of lights.
So I'm talking about, man.
I mean, no one's had New Year's in 2 years.
A beer club. That's what I'm saying. Popping bottles of again, barrel aged beer, not popping champagne bottles, or
Champagne at midnight.
Okay, champagne at midnight. All right. Can we get this? Can we get the? Trying to think. No, not Miller's High Life, not that champagne beer. I'm trying to think where's the one that always in the bottle? The Dunkin'. No. Starts with a D. Usually it's in a can with red writing, but that one kind of has like a champagne. It's very carbonated, so I gotta fire that. Oh well, moving on. I'm drinking not that much beer. This is, I have to say, this double dry hop Pliny is definitely good, and I also like the Billionaire one. That I just put it down because I was like, that has to line up with the flavor. It has a lot of maltiness to it, so I definitely want to line it up with the Diablo and the twist. When it comes to like home brewers, smaller breweries, like what inspiration or what type of experience do you give them to help them figure out how to keep themselves like either can wise coming into the tap room, or for you to say, hey, I'm gonna buy a 6 stool or a 15, because a 6 stool is I think 5 gallons, so or a 15 gallon thing. Like did they ask you those questions? Like what type of conversations do you have to get them actually on tap versus doing cans?
Like a new brewery?
Like a new brewery, home brewer.
Because we can't legally do home
No,
breweries.
yeah, not home brewer. I'm sorry. Yes,
So like a new brewery.
like a contract brewer. Thank you. Like,
Okay.
let me use the terminology that's correct.
So usually they come in and sample me. Like that's what I've done with pretty much everybody. Like with Mario from
El Coast. Yeah, shout out to El Coast.
he's come in here many times. And that's pretty much how the conversation starts.
Gotcha. That's a good conversation. Now, what food wise, are you thinking of doing food, or are you just like no on that?
I mean, we have rotating food trucks every day. There's no kitchen here.
I was going to say.
It's never made to have a kitchen in here.
Gotcha.
I actually recently looked into possibly doing some kind of repair, but it's the amount of work changes I would need to make and money.
Yes.
Maybe my second location.
Let's talk about capital. I'm glad you brought that up. Not the money of the revenue and the profit and loss, but like funding, grants, things of those natures. Do you still go after those type of grants or fundings, or do you look up how you can get investment in that sense, or is it more so coming out of pocket or through friends or consulting or whatever it is that you do on the side to get more revenue?
Yeah, I haven't needed to be quite honest.
That's good.
I raised X amount of money to open this place up.
Yes.
And we did okay during COVID. I was very grateful for. I got the PPP and the SBA loan.
Yeah.
That's all we got, but I was able to actually put away a decent amount of savings. So I do have a pillow.
There we go. Good old pillow. Gotta have that emergency rainy day. What if fund?
Yeah.
So that's good.
What I found interesting though, during the pandemic, was when we were only doing takeout, right? Our can and bottle sales went up like 10, 15 times. But as a tap room, we don't actually make that much money off of the packaged beer. It's the draft that we wanted to move. So it barely kept us afloat until we could open up and just do, when we did outdoor seating, it was amazing. It was like finally we could move draft again. But
Yeah. Because your glass, the cost that you get per pint, or even the 10 ounce or 8 ounce, depending on how heavy the ABV is for the beer versus the cans, it's like, yeah. And then, like I said, markup and looking at the cost of the cans, having to like, how do I make a profit on this by carrying this? Because you're buying those cans wholesale from the breweries. When
Yeah, there's a standard industry markup. Like cans are 30%, draft is 70%. So that's
look at that. Mark, did you hear that? BeerTalkNow. Cans are 30% and draft is 70. That's why you're selling draft. That's why you want to pour it in the glass.
Yeah.
Man, that's good. Now, no TV. Oh, you got one TV in here. How often is that TV on?
I just bought that.
I was going to say, I don't remember seeing that.
I refused for almost 3 years to get a TV because I did not want to be a sports bar.
I was going to ask that question. Like, I'm glad.
So now it's on every day, and I play the football games, or the Warriors, or.
But I mean, is that really getting more people to come in, or is it more so just?
I think people are still getting used to the fact that we have a TV because we never had one.
So obviously, it seems here like beer is definitely that conversational. Like we're going to sit down, like you and I are doing right now, and we're going to have a pint, and we're just going to talk.
Yeah.
We're going to hang out.
I designed this room to be communal.
Yeah.
I wanted people to share a table, share a space, so they could. I mean, I've had so many people in the neighborhood tell me they've never met their neighbors until they came here.
Wow.
And that to me is that's what I want to do. I have so many people that are big groups of friends now because they met here.
Man, that's so true. Man, United States, right? Like I've talked to so many people from outside the United States, and they're like, beer gardens are totally different. Like, just get long bench tables, like this, even a little bit longer, and like you sit down and you start running your mouth with whoever, having a good time. And us, we're trying to be VIPs excluded. You know, even these, I even noticed like the barrels over here, and I'm just like, I'm surprised it doesn't have three to four chairs around that barrel, so you have to sit down and look at each other more. So that's good.
Well, it was interesting. Like during COVID, I was like, wow, now you can't be communal. It's like, am I gonna have to fucking redesign my place whenever we open back up? But
I mean, you just get the hey, where's your card or where's the mask, and then take it down and drink it. So that's good. So what do you want to see, and what do you want to see in craft beer in the next? Because I mean, with COVID, 2022 is right around the corner. So let's say by 2025, what would you like to see the industry of beer or the business of beer do, not only just for taprooms, but just in general, to help you? I mean, but that will add value to what you're doing as a standalone taproom. Take your time to think about that, as you do. I'm going to drink this good old billionaire.
I mean, I personally feel like I've gotten a lot of love and support from a lot of the smaller and the bigger breweries here, like Cellarmaker. You know, like they reached out to me, and I'd only been open 3 months.
Wow.
To get their beers in here, and I was like, "Whoa, Connor's emailing me right now."
Shout out to Cellarmaker. I've yet to go there. I need to go there.
You know, they're opening up down here.
What?
Announced last week. Yeah, they're taking over the Blue Bottle spot.
I was going to say, because I see it open, but not really.
They're closed already.
Yeah, okay.
There's already notice on the door.
Cellarmaker's opening up in Oakland, California.
Yeah, they're adding a brewery here. And it's happening.
Oh man, it's about to get crazy. See, look at that. That's a wonderful thing. Now, one thing you did mention off camera that I wanted to talk about was about not necessarily not wanting to carry local beers, but you want to give people who are in the neighborhood an experience of a beer or brewery, that they would not typically go to. So, why were you intentional about that, and how does that help the community?
Well, there's 4 breweries within walking distance.
That's a fact.
And we're all friends. You know, and I've carried their beers before, but something I more recently acknowledged or made the decision to do was kind of slightly rebranding a little bit and try to really diversify the lineup that I have on draft. And also, people are hopping around and going to Federation, Oakland United, Original Pattern, and
Buckwild. Yep.
Then they can come here. Why would they come here to get all 4 breweries? Here. Come here and get the other stuff that you can't get in this neighborhood.
Like this 12-5 Twisted Stout that I'm going to try in a little bit.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's from Liquid Gravity.
I got to take one of them. Are you doing growlers to go?
We do.
Oh, yeah. See?
Yeah, ABC allowed us, they extended it and are allowing us to do it for 3 more years.
Now let's talk about that. With the ABC, for you as a tap room, how was that process of getting your liquor license, and what else, was there any difference from what a brewery has to go through? Or was it the same?
I don't know what the breweries have to go through. Okay. I mean, it wasn't that difficult for me.
Okay.
A beer and wine license is pretty easy to get. It's the liquor licenses that are difficult. But because there's an abundance of alcohol in this neighborhood, I had to get what's called a major conditional use permit. So that was in congruence with getting my ADC license, and you couldn't get one without the other, and you had about 3 months to do it, so it was kind of doing both at the same time.
Wow.
But we got it. No one opposed it. So
And why did they do that again? You said because they sell so much.
there's a lot of alcohol in this neighborhood already.
Okay.
So it's called a major conditional use permit. So the neighborhood, if anyone opposes someone else selling more alcohol out here, they have an opportunity to say something. Maybe even another business wants to say something.
Wow. And that will send you an arbitration to say, do we need this other entity selling alcohol in the neighborhood?
We had to mail out flyers to all the residents within, I forgot, like 1,000 feet away from the tap room in all directions.
See?
And then they ask you things about, are there any churches or schools nearby or parks, like where there's going to be children?
Right.
You know what I mean? So do all this work for that. Right?
Isn't that crazy? But they got the corner store right across the street, or maybe 5 blocks away from the school. But they're asking you like how close you are. That's crazy. And the smoke shops and all that. Shout out to Oakland and the smoke shops. No, this is definitely a great conversation because I think I've heard breweries like we just want to have a tap room, like, and I'm just like, well, how does that work? Does that really provide you what you need as a brewery? Because I think the tap room, to your point, I mean, the markup of 70%, or you selling a glass or a pint for $10, $12. If it's a 12% or higher, it could be $12 to $15 versus getting the cans. I could see that, but it just was always interesting to me, like, especially when I walked in here. It's like standalone tap. I've heard breweries say it, but no one's never necessarily pulled the trigger because, again, the extra cost of like finding a building. So when you found this building from the coffee shop that was going down, was this leased? Was it owned? Like how did that?
I had to pitch to the landlord, show them my business plan, but I had my own lease for this, 10-year lease.
Gotcha. Now, was that a triple net lease?
Yeah.
Damn you landlords and your triple net leases.
It's okay. It's not too bad.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was a small space, so like, I mean, but you're with triple net lease for the audience and people, like, you fix the lights, you fix the toilets, literally you do everything in here, and they collect the rent. But again, it's a nice. I mean, Jack White, downtown Oakland, right out there.
I was really lucky. It already had everything in here. Like the plumbing was here, the bathrooms were here. I mostly had to do cosmetic work and just a few little things, so it wasn't like a full build out from scratch. So I was very lucky about that.
Now, will you take more pictures? I'm loving this picture. Shout out to my co-host, Mr. Refine. He would love this Batman in the background next to this Pilsner. Yeah, it looks like a Pilsner glass or a longer glass right there. Are you going to be taking more pictures and adding that to you?
I mean, I have a catalog of million photos. I mean, I should change it all.
Strategically, of course. Definitely. I mean, I enjoy them, but I definitely strategically added. Maybe you should put a big one where the TV was, and so it's like, oh, great. So, what do you want this tap room to be? Where do you want this tap room to be in the next 5 years? And what I mean by that is, why I asked that 5-year question like the resume is like, what changes would you like the tap room to provide so that the community is the way that you envision the community to be when it comes to craft beer?
That's a question I'm literally constantly asking myself. I mean, I feel it changed so many times. Like we had to change how we ran the place during COVID, right? Like bring people back, bring people to sit outside, and I feel that way again. It's interesting. So I read this article, came out maybe about a month ago. Some listeners might have read this. It's an article on how the craft beer bar is dead, and it talks about how there's there's so much beer here now, right? And then all the breweries now have taprooms, so it's kind of taking away from a bar like me or Beer Revolution or the Good Hop that used to have more people coming to it because there wasn't as many establishments to go visit. Now they're going straight to the breweries. So I would love to make even more of a name for us and make it a place that people, like they know they're going to get the best beer here. They know we're always going to have a killer lineup of diversity.
Stout on tap, so you need to come to Tiger Taproom just for that.
You know, and we're nice here. We're not snobs. You know, I've been to some places totally full of stuck-up.
Like, what the hell? What beer do you want? You don't know? All right, bye. Next.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's happened.
Yeah.
Not to me, but I've seen it.
I don't like that. Like, I love, people ask me all the time, like, why am I here all the time? Like, I'm like, I didn't open a beer bar to stay in the office, or, you know, like, I love working the floor and talking with everybody and getting to know people and educating them.
I'm glad you said that. How, now, if you plan on getting more people, or because I should ask the question: how many people for you do you need to staff this place to where you can do exactly what you said?
More like how much revenue I need.
Yeah, okay. Well, see, that's better.
I mean, I'm already cutting hours for December, January from people because it's so slow.
Well, definitely in the holidays, as you mentioned, because of people here. But what is the ideal number of, let's say, ideal revenue for you? And then you don't say a specific number. You can say 2 times, 3 times what you're making.
Probably twice.
So twice to where you're from, at least I guess after the winter months, really kind of coming right out of winter, spring, summer. Like, how many people would that allow you to have to where you really could do what you're doing right now?
Yeah.
Like sit down and talk to the customer, talk to your community. I don't want to call them customers, but at the end of the day, they don't show up and talk to you and tell you what they want, and you don't have a business. So what is that?
Probably 2 more.
2 more people.
I'd love to take Sunday off. I hate working Sundays.
What is it about the Sundays? Huh? Is it just
I'm burnt out by Sunday.
Saturday, you're like, here we go.
Yeah. So, and Sundays are always a slower day out of the 3 days. And then I usually work alone, and I'm pretty burnt out.
Gotcha. No one talks.
I'd rather be here drinking on Sunday.
And now you're talking. Now, do you tell people that you're the owner of the Tiger Taproom, or is it just more just like and the only reason why I ask that is because I think a lot of times people always want to know the owner.
Yeah.
And then when they do, they feel more comfortable having that conversation. So that's why I asked that question.
We have a ton of diehard regulars, and they definitely all know that I'm the owner. But it is funny sometimes. People will find out that I'm the owner, and they'll be a little shocked, to be honest. Like,
come on, Brian. Let's talk about it, man.
What, I can't have a mohawk and be an owner?
Exactly. I can't have tattoos. I can't be whatever you're envisioning.
Yeah, this one guy kept calling me a beer hipster. I was like, why are you wearing an Almanac t-shirt? I'm like, because I work at a craft beer bar, you know? And he's like, what's up with the mohawk? And I'm like, I was trying to be nice to this guy, you know? And
he's being an asshole.
He found out I was the owner, and he was like, you're the owner? I'm like, yeah. You know, just fuck you.
Good, Brian. You should have said, fuck you, Brian. You should have told him that directly to his face and like, yeah, I'm the owner.
I don't want to show that.
I know. But it's tough, and I'm glad that you really have the mindset of like bringing people into beer, and that's what I mean. And I'm glad that you sat down and did this episode with me because this is fun, and it's just this is my first time actually filming by myself. Shout out to my stepdad who usually does it, but no, this is something that I think people really don't. They look at everything else and they forget that alcohol, like prohibition, all these things are like that you could not have this. This was illegal in the United States. Now it's around the world. Beer is bar none. Most people hard alcohol, cognacs, liquors, vodkas, all that stuff like that. Yeah, they'll drink it. You can get more money for it because you're going to promote it more, charge $40, $50 for a bottle. But beer is like, there's nothing special in the sense it's water, yeast, malt, hops. But it's also the fun thing about it is it's the creativity of how am I going to take the same recipe that somebody else did and make it mine?
Right.
And I think for you in the side room is how am I going to introduce that to you so that, to your point, teaching them. I think that is a beautiful thing to not let someone just say, I'll take number 2. What's number 2? Oh, the lager. Oh, you mean the lager from this brewery? Yeah, from that brewery. What is that brewery? Like, I could see you having like a whole 30-minute conversation with somebody just off something basic like that. And that's what beer needs. Beer needs someone to invite it, just like everything else. Make it comfortable for people so they can get in. I think you're doing a wonderful job with that. Space is nice. Love the lighting, by the way. Very nice mood setting. Just this whole setup is good. And I know that, like you said, it's kind of like just like a straight shot as you come in. It's like, get the beer, come sit down, bathroom's right there, and that's about it. Like, it's not, you don't ever go around the corner or anything of that nature. So this is great. Yeah, I mean, I have multiple beers left. Beer Talk Now community, got 4. I was just drinking slowly because I wanted to make sure that I get, all my conversation instead of just down beers, which I typically do anyway. But where, let everybody know where they can find you, so I don't forget about that.
Yeah, we're located just south of Jack London, in the Warehouse District, on the corner of 3rd and Jackson, 308 Jackson Street.
You really cannot miss it. It's Tiger's Taproom. It's right there. And where did the name Tiger's Taproom come from?
So Tiger was my dog.
I thought so, but I just want to ask.
There's a photo of him up there. Yeah.
Oh snap! What up, Tiger? Shout out to him.
He was. I rescued him off the streets of Oakland when he was about 3 months old. He was almost 16 when he passed away, which is pretty old for a pit bull.
Wow.
But we had a great life together. We used to go up and down this coast, to hit up every brewery together. I think more people knew my dog than me.
That's a good thing, man.
Yeah.
Look what you saved him. He put his mark on the world, and now you open the damn tap room after.
Yeah, I mean, he was here every day until he passed. So.
Nice. Yeah. I'd love to meet Tiger. I'm a big fan of bully breeds. Shout out to all the pit bulls, bulldogs, American bulldogs, all of them. Working class dogs, love them. Well, I'm gonna finish this beer. I appreciate you. I want you to keep doing that. I want you to get. I definitely want the back room if you can add anything to it, maybe more storage or something of that nature, because I know you need some storage. But I think you're going in the right direction of teaching, and you really have a passion for it. But also your financial background helps you to where you don't necessarily. It's not necessarily a stress. It's just how do I pivot to what I need to get to. Like, what is my solution, and what can I do? In this type of environment with craft beer, as you mentioned, because everyone's opening a brewery every other week. Even in COVID, there are like 4 breweries opening up in the Bay Area, like alone. So this is your environment. Like this is where you thrive. So if you want to be a business person and you want to understand like stress and pressure, like come to craft beer. Like that'll teach you something. So it's been another episode of Beer Talk Now. I'm drinking beer. What are you drinking? And I'll catch you on the next episode. Cheers. Yeah! Look at that. 40 minutes. I didn't keep you the hour.
Awesome.
That was good. Brian, now let's drink and just talk. You got time. You got that.
I do have time.